In 1987, a family in Horicon, Wisconsin bought a secondhand haunted bunk bed from a thrift store. After bringing it home, things started happening in the children's room. Small things at first, then larger things. Then the children started seeing something. The family moved out. They destroyed the bunk beds, and then the haunting stopped. The chain of events is either completely absurd or disturbingly simple. The family bought spooked furniture. The furniture haunted their house. They destroyed the furniture. The paranormal activity ended. There is no chapter 2. Horicon, Wisconsin is a town of approximately 3,600 people in Dodge County, about 50 miles northwest of Milwaukee. It is best known for the Horicon Marsh, a roughly 33,000-acre wetland that serves as a major stopover for migratory birds and is, by most accounts, very peaceful. The town also had a John Deere plant. The downtown consists of a few blocks of small businesses along Lake Street. It is not the kind of place where the unexplained happens. Alan and Debbie Tallman lived in a modest house on the edge of town with their 3 children. Alan reportedly worked at the John Deere plant. Debbie was described as a homemaker. They were, by every available description, an ordinary, working-class family in a small Midwestern town. They were not public personalities. They had no media connections. They had no history of unusual claims. In 1987, Debbie Tallman bought the bed for their 2 young daughters. The bed was wooden. Its origin is unknown. Thrift stores in small Wisconsin towns don't maintain detailed acquisition records. No one knows who owned the bed before, where it was built, or what, if anything, happened in its vicinity. The bed was installed in the children's bedroom. According to the Tallmans, the problems began shortly after. The initial events were, by haunting standards, unremarkable. A clock radio in the children's room began changing stations by itself. It would cycle through frequencies, landing on stations the family didn't listen to, and, especially, what children listened to AM radio? It sometimes stopped on static, sometimes produced what Debbie described as garbled voices. They replaced the radio. The new one did the same thing. The timeline is worth noting. According to available accounts, the first incidents began within weeks of the bunk bed's arrival, possibly days, though the Tallmans didn't immediately connect the two. You don't buy furniture and assume it's cursed. You assume the radio is broken. You assume the house has a draft. The Tallmans reportedly spent the first several weeks doing what any reasonable person would do, replacing batteries, checking wiring, and telling the children it was nothing. The children's rocking chair, a small wooden chair in the bedroom, began rocking on its own. Not the gentle, settling motion of a chair on an uneven floor. A sustained, deliberate rocking, as if someone were sitting in it. Both the parents and children saw this. Then the children began seeing the figure. They described a woman standing in their room at night. She was tall. She had long, dark hair. Her face was described, consistently between the children and across multiple tellings, as green. Not sickly green, but a vivid, unnatural green. The children called her the witch. She appeared near the bunk beds. She did not speak. She watched them like the worst kind of nightlight imaginable. The children were, by all accounts, terrified. Not the performative fear of kids telling ghost stories at a sleepover, the kind where they refuse to enter the bedroom. The kind where a 9-year-old sleeps on the floor of her parents' room rather than go near the bunks. Debbie Tallman reportedly described finding her daughters awake, rigid, staring at a corner of the room. They didn't scream. They didn't run. They just watched the thing that was watching them. Which, as a parenting experience, falls somewhat outside the advice columns. Alan and Debbie initially responded with reassurance, then with concern. Then, reportedly, by sleeping in the children's room themselves to prove nothing was there. It's unclear whether the figure appeared on those nights. What is clear is that the parents stopped dismissing the reports. The phenomena escalated. The garage door began opening and closing on its own, not once or twice, but repeatedly, at all hours. Far more than any bored prankster teens in the area would be able to conjure. Alan checked the mechanism, checked the remote, checked the wiring. Nothing was wrong with the system. The door continued to misbehave. Alan and Debbie both reported feeling things. Pressure on their shoulders, the sensation of fingers on their arms. Alan described being pushed while standing near the top of the basement stairs. Not enough to fall, enough to notice. The basement also carried a persistent foul smell, rotting meat or sulfur. No source was ever found. The escalation pattern is compressed. From the first radio incident to the fire, the entire sequence reportedly spanned roughly 9 months, early spring of '87 to January of '88. That's not the slow burn timeline of a Gothic novel. That's the duration of a school year. The children went through an entire autumn, an entire holiday season, while their bedroom contained something their parents couldn't explain and couldn't remove. Then came the fire. On a night in January 1988, the exact date is not consistently reported in available sources, Alan Tallman was in the basement. He reported seeing flames, actual fire, visible and hot, erupting from a section of the basement floor and walls. He ran upstairs. He called the fire department. The Horicon Fire Department responded. According to reporting by Unsolved Mysteries, which covered the case in a 1989 episode, the fire department confirmed that they responded to a fire call at the Tallman residence. They found no fire. They found no burns. They found no electrical fault or mechanical cause. They offered no explanation. The Tallmans left the house that night and did not return. According to their account, given to Unsolved Mysteries, to local media, and to subsequent investigators, they removed the bunk beds from the house and had them destroyed. According to Debbie Tallman, the beds were buried in a private landfill. After the beds were destroyed, the activity stopped. Completely. No radio interference, no rocking chair, no figure, no garage door, no fire. The family moved to a new home in the Horicon area. They never reported more paranormal activity. The skeptical reading of the Tallman case rests on a few pillars. First, radio interference in rural Wisconsin in 1988 is not paranormal. AM and FM signals in low population areas are susceptible to atmospheric skip, nearby industrial equipment, the John Deere plant was not far away, and the general vagaries of analog broadcast technology. A radio changing stations on its own is unusual, but not inexplicable. If a ghost did it, it may have been to get away from the often too fresh beats of the 1980s. Second, children see things. A glowing woman in a dark bedroom, reported by children under 10, is difficult to evaluate as evidence. Children are suggestible. Nightmares bleed into waking memory. One child's report can shape another child's perception. The witch may have been a shared nightmare amplified by the stress of a household that was, by this point, experiencing unexplained mechanical failures. Or something as simple as the moonlight passing through curtains through sleep-filled eyes. Third, old houses have smells, old wiring produces faults, and old garage door mechanisms malfunction. The infrastructure of a working-class home in a small Wisconsin town in 1988 is not the kind of infrastructure that rules out mundane explanations. In short, old houses have a character that is rarely silent. Fourth, and this is the pillar the skeptical explanation leans on hardest, the Tallmans appeared on Unsolved Mysteries. They told their story on national television. This doesn't mean they fabricated it, but it introduces the possibility of narrative shaping. The story, once told publicly, becomes fixed. Details that might have been uncertain become definitive. The sequence of events tightens. The story becomes a legend. The Unsolved Mysteries episode aired in 1989. For those unfamiliar with the show's format, it consisted of Robert Stack standing in a trench coat in a dimly lit room, narrating reenactments of crimes and unexplained events with the vocal warmth of a federal subpoena. The Tallman segment featured interviews with Alan and Debbie, reenactments of the phenomena, and the kind of synthesizer-heavy soundtrack that public television used to signal that something was meant to be unsettling. The episode brought national attention. Suddenly, a small-town Wisconsin haunting was in living rooms across the country. The Tallmans reportedly cooperated with the production, but were uncomfortable with the attention. They didn't want to be famous. They wanted to stop being haunted, which they'd already accomplished by the time the cameras arrived. All of this is reasonable. None of it accounts for the fire department call. The Horicon Fire Department came to the Tallman residence. They confirmed the response. They found no cause. A family doesn't call the fire department as part of a hoax. Not in a town this small, where the firefighters are your neighbors and the cost of a false alarm is social, not just procedural. And the object correlation is difficult to dismiss entirely. The beds are the only variable that changed. Nothing before, nothing after. And that's something the Tallmans lost sleep over. The paranormal explanation, that the bunk bed was an object of attachment for a spirit and that destroying it severed the attachment, is an approach with deep roots in folklore and one with no support in any scientific discipline. Objects don't carry spirits. Wood does not retain consciousness, despite yard sale insistence that age or scuffs imbue something with character. Regardless, burning the beds provided a catharsis and escape for the family, even if there was no material reason to do so. The concept of a haunted object isn't unique to American folklore. Japanese tradition holds that tools and household items can develop spirits after 100 years of use, the tsukumogami. European folklore is dense with cursed heirlooms and possessed relics. The pattern recurs. An object enters a space, disruption follows, the object is removed or destroyed, and order returns. It's a story humans have been telling for centuries, across every continent and in every language. Whether that means haunted objects are real, or that the human brain is very good at assigning blame to the newest thing in the room, depends entirely on what you were already prepared to believe. But the Tallmans weren't consulting the literature. They were a factory worker and a homemaker whose children were seeing a glowing woman in their bedroom. They burned the beds. It stopped. The logic is pre-scientific, and it was completely effective. Tallman and his wife bought secondhand furniture for their kids. They didn't seek publicity. They didn't write a book, though their story was later featured in one. They gained nothing from their story except the cost of replacement beds and a house they had to leave. The Tallman case is largely forgotten now. It doesn't have the longevity of the Amityville Horror or the cultural footprint of the Enfield Poltergeist. No one made a franchise out of it. There are no sequels, no cinematic universe, no themed escape rooms. It exists mostly in listicles and the occasional Reddit thread filed under lesser-known hauntings, alongside cases that have more drama and less resolution. But the simplicity of it is exactly what makes it difficult to dismiss. Most haunting stories end ambiguously. The family moves, the activity continues, the investigation stalls, and everyone argues about it forever. The Tallman case ends with a receipt. Buy furniture, get haunted. Destroy furniture, stop being haunted. It is the only paranormal case on record with a clear return policy. The bunk beds are gone. The activity stopped. The house, as far as anyone knows, has been quiet since. Whether the beds were haunted or the Tallmans were mistaken, the outcome is the same. They identified a problem, applied a solution, and the solution stuck. The available record does not indicate why, and we can say they've put the issue to bed.